office collections to home office options. You can find exactly with the large selection of sizes, finishes, and styles. You can design an office just the way you need it. An office you can be proud of. The Office Furniture Outlet in Corona is just south of the 91 freeway in McKinley at 284 DuPont Street, or visit ofousa.com. That's ofousa.com for the Office Furniture Outlet in Corona today.
Miss your favorite show? Download the podcast at kcaaradio.com.
Hey, buddy, I heard the drought's moving in, muscling in on your turf. To make matters worse, the man keeps telling you to limit your spigot. That drought is bad news, no fooling. But me and my boys can help. The Water Boys, on the Water Zone, Thursday nights at 6. We'll help you protect your turf and save water. And hey, don't worry about it. Consider it a gift.
Yeah, Louie, you heard the boss. We gotta listen in at 6 p.m. on Thursday nights.
Okay, Vinny, you got it. The Water Zone, Thursday nights at 6 p.m. I'll tell our lawn it's now protected.
From the NBC News radio broadcasting studios of KCAA, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, and 106.5 FM, located in beautiful sunny California. Thanks for tuning into the Water Zone Show. I'm Rap Star, along with Mr. Mike Barron, also known around here as Mikeypedia, and together we collectively are known as the Water Boys. Hey, Mike, how you doing this afternoon?
Oh, I am doing fantastic. You know, it's been 2 weeks since I had the privilege of sitting next to you and being part of the Water Zone, so I'm excited to be here.
Excellent. We got a great guest today, and actually we have two, but one's our standing guest, which is the purveyor of Maven's Notebook, Miss Chris Austin, and then we have another gentleman that we're going to have on, Mr. Jay Lund, and he's from UC Davis. Does Mr. Davis, is he on the phone? Who do we got? Oh, that's just Chris?
No, we got Dave, too.
We got who?
Jay.
Oh, excellent. Great.
You're better than you even realize.
Well, I'm scrambling because the numbers that they gave us to use didn't work. I had to scramble to send Jay a message, and I gave Chris a different number to call in this morning just to be safe.
Well, I mentioned who was going to be on the show tonight, Chris and Professor Lund, and both my wife and my daughter, who is in Baltimore, are going to be listening in on the 800 number versus on the phone. So they were excited too.
Excellent. Well, we're all excited today. Anyway, it's a great week, great day. Things are happening, and I'll tell you more what's going on after the show.
All right.
Lots of crazy things. But anyway, we should get into the show and bring Miss Chris on. Chris, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
We're excellent. You know, Chris was with me, or I was with her, either way, where we both attended the San Bernardino Water Conference last Friday.
I heard that was very informative, and that you didn't get kicked out. So, you know, we're all happy about that.
He didn't get booed off the stage.
I know, you know, he's a bit of a Robertopedia too himself. You know, he's been doing a great job.
I behaved myself.
All right.
No, what did you think of the conference?
Oh, I thought it was great. I thought it was very informative. And you had an interesting panel talking about the difference between public and private water agencies.
Right.
You know, it would have been fun to get into some of the real differences in the business world.
Yeah, but I know they didn't want
agencies.
Yeah, they didn't want to touch on that. And then when I took the questions from the audience, I was shocked at the first person who got up and asked some questions, but I had to let them go on because she wasn't very happy with one of the water agencies. But you can't stop them. I mean, you ask them to ask their questions and Gotta let
Oh,
'em-
I know, and you don't want to put panelists on the spot, never,
No.
But I think the big difference between public agencies and investor-owned utilities is that the public agencies have to take public trust values into consideration. They're spending the public's money, so there's a lot more control.
Absolutely.
And an investor-owned utility does have some more flexibility that they're regulated by the PUC, but they don't have to do some of the things that the public utilities have to do. But it's getting the public to understand the difference between the two agencies, because two different types of agencies.
No,
That's going to be about as easy as helping the public understand why it is in our long-term interest to allow prices of water to rise. That's going to be a tough one to convince people.
Well, the real value of water.
Well,
But to start this off, let's do it right. Are you ready to? You know what they do at the boxing matches, right? Are you ready to?
box.
No. What does that guy say?
Oh, rumble.
Are you ready to rumble? And we're having some rumblings up north. Farmers and environmentalists joined to battle planned Delta Tunnels project. You want to tell us a little more what you know, Chris?
Yeah, well, there's not really a story about anything particularly new, not a new lawsuit being filed yet, but, give it a day or two. But it was more of a story that, the opposition to the Delta Tunnels are starting to coalesce together. And sometimes that makes for some strange bedfellows, but they're kind of joining forces. Those that are opposed, as are those that are for the tunnels. They had a meeting on Monday at Metropolitan Water District on the cost and finance of the California Water Fix project. And I would have to say, I'm still working through the meeting. I would have to say that there were about as many people speaking in support of the project, mostly business leaders, labor groups, but there were as many people speaking in favor of the project as there were speaking against the project, which I thought was kind of interesting. So everyone was out in force for that beginning part of the meeting where usually there's no one there to speak, but now there's like 25 people. But it's interesting. People are kind of getting out to express their opinions. The news from the Metropolitan Water District is now they actually think it's going to be less, more like $3 a month per household for the California Water Fix project. But the tunnel opponents don't agree with their cost assumptions. And again, really the wild card, to me, I don't really think the wild card is whether urban Southern California is going to go for it. It's really what is agriculture in the Central Valley? What are they going to do? And that we just kind of have to wait to see how that shakes out. There's a lot of rumblings that they can't afford it, but when push comes to shove and they have to come down to the wire and make the decision, that's when we'll really know.
Well, it would be interesting to observe how the water agencies that are going to pay for the project get, I guess, stalled by the anti-water fix advocates in court, and whether that will be a 10-year resolution time frame or whether that's going to be a 20-year resolution. But I just know, I think I heard, and our next guest I think is going to be able to clarify exactly how long has this water fix been in development and how many different constituencies have had a chance to participate in drafting or creating, what's being proposed now. So it'll be interesting. Definitely interesting.
It's been a long decade, a little decade plus. Also Jay Lund came out, his group came out with it's actually not Jay Lund himself, but his blog, the California Water Blog, came out with a really good post, I think, on Monday on the California Water Fix project, where The writer was Dr. Peter Moyle, who is a highly respected fisheries biologist, and they went through and kind of sussed out the whole California water fix. Would it work, and is it, what happens if it doesn't go through, and what are the other options? And I thought it was a really good, clear way to lay everything out. So you should ask him about that. I'm sure he'd be happy to talk to you more about where they are with that.
Well, yeah, that'll be great.
Absolutely. So I hear there was a symposium presentation that looked at Governor Brown's administration proposed framework for water conservation.
Oh, yes, that was at the Chino Basin event at the end of June. I posted that. The legislature comes back next week, and one of the things that they were supposed to be working on over the break was how to enact this framework that the governor, put out, his agencies put out on how to make conservation a California way of life. And mainly what the point of dispute, I guess, is that the state wants to set water use targets for the water agencies to reduce their water use. And they're looking for, instead of like an across-the-board cut, they're sort of proposing, kind of coming up with a water budget, how many gallons people should be using indoors and how many gallons is outdoors. And then they want to set efficiency levels, and then the water districts would have to, enact policies to get to that point. And the water agencies are really trying to, come up with what they feel is fair. There's, it sounds easy on the outset, but when you really start digging into it, there are questions. And so we're going to probably see some movement on that in the next month or so now that the legislature is back. So we'll be looking to see what happens there.
Well, it'll be interesting. The thing is, every time somebody makes a plan and they have the public hearings, and after everybody makes a decision, there's more people who just find out what it's all about, and it starts all over again.
Well, I think what's really, I think that a lot of people don't understand quite this thing of demand management. I actually asked my husband one night, I said, if I tell you that your utility company practices demand management, what do you think that means? And he took a minute and he says, I think they're spying on me. Well, it's like Southern Cal. They've done this with the electricity because they don't want to be building any more power plants, right? So they put constraints on the electrical utilities to reduce consumption in your service area, and so you have to implement plans and policies to get people to reduce their use, and and that's something that they've done with the electrical utilities. Now they're going to do it with the water utilities. So it's an interesting way of going about it, and it really puts it in the court of the water districts to make this happen. But when you look to the other side, the public doesn't understand it, and I don't know how you make customers use less if they don't care that they use as much as they use. There's definitely the feeling, well, I can use what I want and willing to pay for it.
Yep.
I wish we had more time because Chris, we'll save this for next week, and that has to do with Prop 1 funding for watershed rehabilitation. That's something I think that it was at least new to me. So that's a pretty big deal, I think.
Yeah, well, they also had all the surface storage projects had to turn in their applications, so that was the big news this week too. How many new dams or there's only $2.7 billion out there for new storage projects, and it's not intended to fully pay for any one project. And there's like 12 projects applied, 6 were for dams, and the other 6 were groundwater projects. And it's not enough money, obviously, for all 12, so they'll be being evaluated on a competitive basis for those. We'll see how that goes.
Absolutely. All right, well, we're going to take a little break here to get some words from our sponsor and then be back with our other guest, Mr. Jay Lund. So stick around, everybody. If you want to call in, 909-792-5222 or 909-792-1050.
And thank you very much, Chris.
Yeah. Okay, we'll talk to you next week.
All right.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
This is the Schmidt's Yard. Company's coming soon, and, oh, Schmidt, their deck and outdoor furniture's been dominated by dirt. But no worries, there's plenty of time for Scott's Outdoor Cleaner plus OxyClean to work its magic. Its fast-foaming action lifts dirt and wipes out stains from moss, mold, mildew, and algae. Guaranteed. All while being safe to use around plants and grass. Because when company's coming, dirt's not invited. This is a Scott's Yard. Pick up Scott's Outdoor Cleaner this weekend.
Are you looking for a place to buy your landscape and gardening items? Come visit us at Site One Landscape Supply. We offer a large and quality selection of irrigation, landscape, and outdoor living products such as Toro's water-efficient precision nozzles. Site One Landscape Supply has over 30 locations right here in Southern California, and we are the largest national wholesale distributor of landscape supplies in the United States. Site One's knowledgeable and friendly staff is equipped to help you with all your landscape, irrigation, and outdoor living projects. Whether you're redoing your backyard into a drought-tolerant garden or creating a water-efficient landscape for your client, Site One has everything you need, including the latest in water-saving technologies, drought-tolerant plants for your yard, irrigation supplies, fertilizer and weed control products, landscape accessories, hardscape products, outdoor lighting, and much, much more. Visit SiteOne.com to find a store near you or stop by today. Site One. We are stronger together.
Well, welcome back to the Water Zone Show with Mike and Rob. We hope everybody's having a great afternoon. And Mike and I are excited, and so is other people that we've talked to about our next guest, as well as Chris. We have a gentleman named Jay Lund. He's the director for the Center of Watershed Sciences at UC Davis. A little background on him. Jay is a professional of civil and environmental engineering. He's on the editorial board of several water resources publications, has been a member of the advisory committee for the 1998 and 2005 California Water Plan updates, has served as convener of the California Water and Environment Modeling Forum, and president of the university's Council on Water Resources, as well as the Delta Independent Science Board. Jay's principal research interest is in the application of systems analysis, economic and management methods to infrastructure and public works problems. He's also the co-author of several books and reports to the Sacramento San Joaquin Delta, published by the Public Policy Institute of California and the University of California Press. He also co-authored an analysis of economical water supply alternatives to Hetchy Dam, and also writes a blog. So, Jay, your blog starts with the statement, a biologist, economist, engineer, and geologist walk into a bar. Which are you, and how did you become so knowledgeable and passionate about California water?
Well, we have here at the Center for Watershed Sciences at UC Davis, we started off as a group of professors from different departments. There was a biologist, Peter Moyle, that Chris Austin mentioned earlier, an economist, Richard Howitt, an engineer, that's me, a geologist, Jeff Mount, and we started working on these water problems, and we having such a great time that we kept working on it, and the center's grown since over time to where I'm the last of all those that hasn't actually retired. So, but we have a lot of new people, and we do a lot of fun things, and so it seems like when the opening statement for the blog, which is CaliforniaWaterblog.com, that we should have something a little bit like a beginning of a joke, because we wanted to have a little bit of sense of humor. So we have biologist, economist, engineer, and geologist walk onto a bar.
Oh.
That's even more interesting.
Yeah. Well, I was reading that as I would walk into a bar. I don't know where my mind is at, so thank you for that clarification.
Anyway, we have
either one of those are very good.
we also have on our line, just so everybody knows, Miss Ingy Bisconer, and she works for our micro irrigation group and does a lot with ag and stuff. And we thought we'd bring her on because a lot of your work is involved in ag, and you touch all of those things. So we thought we'd not gang up on you, but get people in different areas of specialties to ask you some questions. So Ingy, I'll let you ask the next one.
Yes, I think Rob and Mike, you just thought you'd be hungry, so you wanted the ag gal in the morning. A little bit too.
Well, hey,
and we will talk about food. But Jay, I first wanted to dive into your latest blog, speak of a new environmentalism that's needed, and I like the phrase going from no to how better. So my question is, can you kind of explain the nature and significance of what is really a paradigm shift, and maybe some examples of what we could accomplish by going from no to how better?
Well, if you go back to the origins of most of the environmental legislation, was the late 60s, early 70s, things were pretty bad. Terrible air pollution down in Southern California and many other parts of the state, a lot of water pollution problems, a lot of concern with hazardous waste, all kinds of things. And so I think the emphasis on the original legislation was, well, let's stop doing bad things. And so a lot of the legislation is sort of prohibitory. Okay, how can we say no to bad things? And I think that was a very important start at the time. Well, we've gotten pretty good at saying no to things. And it's made a lot of environmental improvements. Certainly air quality in Southern California is a lot better. A lot of our water quality problems are better. But it hasn't worked really well for ecosystems, for the native species that we want to keep around, particularly in the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta and other parts of the state. We're still going to have, no matter what happens, a lot of human activity, a lot of economic activity, agriculture, people living, people recreating. And we're not going to be able to say no to all those activities, and we're going to have to get used to having people in that landscape with all the native species and the public health that we're going to have anyway, we want to have. So the question, I think, has got to shift to how are we going to do better than what we're doing now. Certainly, we're still adding a lot of endangered species, even though we've been saying no to a lot of changes over time, because a lot of changes happen anyway, no matter what we do with the regulations. So we're looking to how do you better manage for the environment and still keep humans around, because you're not going to get rid of them, but be more effective, more pragmatic in keeping ecosystems alive as well.
So no is kind of, if I understand you right, no was kind of the low-hanging fruit to just stop the things that were just obviously so bad, but to help the ecosystem, it's more complicated, and it requires maybe collaboration and maybe not just saying no, but maybe saying yes.
Oh, yeah.
Activities that help the ecosystem as well.
Basically, we have to figure out how to say yes to things and what we want to say yes to. It's very easy to say no. You can go and pretty much to any kind of public meeting or something. It's always easy to say no. But in order to make progress, you have to find ways to say yes. And I think that's true for environmental progress as well as human progress.
Yeah, interesting. I really enjoyed that blog, so thank you for writing it.
These are all fun to write.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
Well, if you take this approach of saying how can we do this better, and we put it in context to California's water situation, we have the ag and urban and environmental sectors. They get their water from obviously rain and snow to begin with, and we store that water in reservoirs. We also store it in the ground. But I often hear conflicting facts or numbers with respect to how much of California's water each of those sectors really uses on an average year. Can you shed some light or share with us what you think is the legitimate way to look at California's water resources?
Well, I think the first thing to realize is California is a very big place, and it's very diverse. So there are some parts of the state that are almost entirely agricultural use. A few parts of the state that are almost entirely urban water use. A few parts of the state that have really very little agriculture and human use and are mostly flows that are unregulated. And some people will call those environmental. We also have very wet years and very dry years. So in some years, the proportions will change a lot between wet years and dry years, depending upon where you are in the state. If you look at the managed water in the system, if you sort of carve out the North Coast, which is largely unmanaged, then we have really most of the water being managed is for agriculture, and then urban, and then a bit for the environment.
And when you say
if you include all the water statewide, including the North Coast, which is pretty wet but doesn't have a lot of agriculture or human use, then it's about 50% unregulated flows, environmental flows, about 40% agriculture, and about 10% urban.
Interesting. And those numbers are fairly well accepted within the water discussion community, say the folks that are debating the water fix?
Well, they all, every sector likes to do the numbers in ways that make them look more impoverished.
Yes. Good point. Well, that's why that was the origin of this question, because we wanted to get it from an unbiased source.
One thing I learned during the drought was that waste is always water used by somebody else.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
Since Chris was just on, she has an excellent write-up on those numbers that Jay just recited from DWR on the different ways of accounting for California's water. So if listeners are interested, they should go to Maven's Notebook and they could see that. And maybe, Jay, you have something on your blog as well.
Oh, yeah, we have a couple of blogs on that as well. But they all tell a similar story.
What percentage of, if I could just ask,
sure,
of the water that falls from the rain really we get to keep and the rest goes somewhere else that we never get to touch?
Well, that's really interesting. So if you take a statewide average, about 200 million acre feet of water fall on the state in an average year. But the runoff down the streams is only about 75 million acre feet. So most of the water that comes down as precipitation evaporates and goes straight back up.
Mm-hmm. Nature recycling.
Do you think, just to follow up a little bit on Rob's question, that there is potential to perhaps capture more of this, of the 200 million acre feet, that might help resolve some of our water shortages in those dry periods?
Well, there have been people talking about that since the 1950s or before, about what could you do to the watersheds to keep more of the water that falls out of the sky as rain or snow. And it's usually pretty expensive. Mm-hmm. So imagine going up to the mountains and cutting down all those trees that evaporate water and pave it so that it all runs off. Okay, that's one way you could do it, but that's pretty expensive, and it causes a lot of environmental damage, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But even recently, this drought has caused people to think a little bit more, in the sense that we lost about 100 million trees in this drought up in the forest, because it was very dry and very warm for several years, and it caused a lot of bark beetle infestations and diseases. And those trees are not going to come back very fast. It takes 30 years to have a 30-year-old tree. So what we're likely to see for some time is a reduction in the evapotranspiration off the forests for a few years. We might have higher evaporation from lower level plants that are going to grow more immediately, but it'll be interesting to see what happens to the forest ecosystem and the amount of water that evaporates off of them for the next 10 years or so. We might get a little bit more water out of it.
Interesting. Well,
we recently did some back-of-the-envelope calculations to look at how much would it cost to get more water off of the mountain watersheds by thinning some of the forests, say. And it's really quite expensive, more expensive than desalinating seawater in many cases. So
wow.
There might be some cases where it's worthwhile, but it's not going to be, I think, terribly widespread.
Well, I know that given your expertise with California water issues, I've got to ask you about the California water fix. I'm sure you've presented at meetings and you've written about it. I think it's been discussed and in development for the last 10 years. And Governor Brown, at least part of his promotion of it or support of it, is a pro-environment position, that it's an initiative that's going to help protect the environment, whereas some farmers in Northern California and environmentalists are really saying, hey, no, the water fix is bad for the environment, and we don't want it to happen. So what you typically see as traditional allies in this particular case are on opposite sides of the discussion. I'm wondering if you could comment on that and what your perspective is.
Well, the Delta is one of the major sources of water for the state. It's the major hub for moving water from the northern part of the state, the wetter part of the state, to the drier part of the state, and that includes Southern California. About a third of the water used in Southern California comes out of the Delta, and it includes the San Joaquin Valley, the Central Valley south of the Delta, and it includes a lot of the Bay Area. Actually, cities in the Bay Area get maybe 70% of their water directly or indirectly from the Delta. So it's very important, but at the same time, the lands in the Delta are subsiding. They're getting lower. The sea level is rising, and it's probably going to be rising at a faster rate. So we're going to have more flooding of the Delta, more tendency for salt water to intrude in the Delta, and that's very bad for the water quality that the humans use and that the crops use. And it's going to change the ecosystem quite a bit as well. So we're going to see some big changes in the Delta over the next 50 years, 100 years, certainly, as we have in the past. And we have to be prepared for it if the Delta is going to remain a major source of water supply for much of the state.
So is it
the water fix idea is to essentially build a couple of tunnels in the northern end of the Delta up in the Sacramento River, lower part of the Sacramento River, and take some of the water that's currently diverted in the south underground and then pick it up south of the Delta. And that'll improve the water quality and the reliability of that water delivery. It won't really expand the total water taken out of the Delta, the total amount of water exported from the Delta very much, if at all. But it should improve the water quality for the human uses, both urban and agricultural. And then on the environmental side, currently what we do is we export all of that water from pumping plants in the southern part of the Delta. And so many of the rivers in the southern part of the Delta and in the central Delta, they essentially flow backwards, as the pumps in the southern Delta drag water from the Sacramento River across the Delta down closer to the San Joaquin River. And that running those rivers backwards in the southern part of the central part of the Delta is not very good for the native fish. They're used to rivers flowing out to sea, and instead they're flowing.
So would the water would the water fix eliminate that reverse flow problem?
The original idea was to have a much larger capacity, which would probably eliminate almost all of that reverse flow. I think the current proposal, which is about half of the original proposal, will substantially reduce those reverse flows, but not entirely eliminate them. There'll be some times when the reverse flows continue, or the current regulation also limits the amount of reverse flow so that it limits the amount of pumping.
And Jay, one of the, I might add about the earthquakes, one of the best arguments that I've heard in favor of the tunnel's construction is that it would help us overcome the inevitable earthquake that would taint water for millions and millions of people, millions of acres of farmland. Can you comment on that? Is that
I think there is something to that.
Yeah.
Certainly, if you had a major earthquake and you lost quite a few of those islands, it takes a long time to get the salt back out of the delta, and you might go quite a few months, maybe even more than a year, before you could start exporting or start moving that Sacramento River water across the delta, repairing the islands and having driven the salt back out. I'm a little bit of two minds about it. I think it would be a problem still, but since the recent earthquakes in Napa County, they found that some of the earthquakes attenuate a little faster than they expected for the delta. So maybe the earthquakes are not quite as bad as had been expected earlier. In addition, certainly the cities south of the delta go to a lot of expense to keep water in reservoirs and keep water in groundwater for earthquakes that they have to prepare for locally as well. So there's already, I think, for the urban users, in particular, quite a lot of water that is habitually stored south of the delta that would be available for such occasions. So the damages would be large, and we would worry about them a lot, but I'm not sure if they would be completely catastrophic.
Okay. Well, switching gears a little bit, let's talk about agriculture, which consumes, no matter which way you slice that pie that we were just talking about, it consumes a lot of water to grow our food. But we have to remember that, the farmers aren't growing it for themselves, they're growing it for people. But in any case, I think it's pretty well publicized that, agriculture, the food that farmers produce, food, fuel, and fiber that farmers produce only contributes, like 5% to the state's economy, GDP, and maybe even a smaller percent in jobs, maybe 2%. And yet our climate, so some people said, hey, the agriculture should go somewhere else, and then we wouldn't have so many water problems for people and the environment. But, we have a very unique climate here in California that grows, fruit, nuts, and vegetables that can't really be grown in very many other places. And there's also the issue of we'd like to be able to grow our own food here locally. There's food security. So from your seat, how do we reconcile this going forward? How do we keep agriculture and yet still have enough for a healthy environment and for, people's well-being and standard of living and health and the economy? It's kind of a tall order, but
yeah,
I think you're the guy that can answer it.
Well, I can give it a try. Agriculture is a major industry in California. Any way you cut it, it's about $50 billion a year in revenues. It's hundreds of thousands of people. It's true that some parts, and certainly overall in the state, it's a few percent, less than 5% of employment and of the GDP. From a drought management perspective, this has been wonderful. Imagine how much worse this last drought would have been if we had the economy that we had in the 1930s and 40s, when about 25 or 30% of employment in the state was agriculture. One of the nice things about the urbanization of California's economy is it makes us much less dependent upon having abundant amounts of water. The major sector that still requires a lot of water is agriculture, however. And some parts of the state depend upon that water quite a lot, in particular the rural counties, and in particular the San Joaquin Valley. So it's really mostly those areas that I think are most affected by these issues. and they've of course taken it very seriously, and they're really on balance pretty smart about it. They're all very smart folks that have thought about it for a long time. That doesn't mean there's not going to be any conflicts. There's always going to be conflicts about water in California, and agriculture is going to be a big part of it because 80% of the human use is agriculture. Where this is going to come to bear mostly is in terms of trade-offs with the environment. So the environment is a sector that we're all trying to make healthy again, even as we try to keep agriculture healthy. And then the other area is groundwater management. So the San Joaquin most of the state is actually in a remarkably good shape for groundwater. Certainly have our problems, but the San Joaquin Valley is about 1.8 million acre-feet a year in overdraft, which is on the order of 15% of all their water use. So you're looking at losing maybe as much as 15% or so of the irrigated land in that part of the world. And of course, the farmers are pretty smart when they take land out of production. If they have to, they'll take the lowest value, the least profitable land out of production.
Sure, and I mentioned that we can uniquely grow fruit, nuts, and vegetables, but today we still grow millions of acres of field crops that
right.
Possibly could be grown elsewhere, and to relieve that pressure that you just talked about from the deficit, it'll probably be relieved by things like wheat and corn.
Right, and we saw that during the drought. So during the drought, agriculture in the state lost about a third of its normal water supply. And
right.
They made up 70% of that loss with pumping additional groundwater. But they still fallowed about 500,000 acres during the worst of the drought.
Yeah.
And almost essentially none of it came out of almonds and the
right.
tree crops and the vine crops, the things that make agriculture really prosperous as a whole. It came out of the lower value crops that California doesn't produce very much of compared to the rest of the world. We tend to import a lot of our wheat and corn anyway.
But it's very scary to have pumped 70% of our savings account, the groundwater, out during that period. But that's changing. That'll change in the future.
That's right, and I think that's really probably the wisest thing that came out of the drought was the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, which is going to insist that local areas keep track of that water and manage it sustainably so that in the wetter years we're banking enough water that we have enough around for those dry years, because the character of California's agriculture has been changing. It's become more of the permanent crops, which you have a very expensive time following those during a drought. So I think there's a real economic incentive for the farmers now to make sure that Sustainable Groundwater Management Act works so that they have that groundwater available in future droughts.
Jay, what do you think took California so long? Why did it take California so long to finally address, groundwater management, do you think?
I think largely because it's so abundant in the state. Basically for the most part, we've been able to not have a lot of groundwater management for 100 years or so. And it's been a problem, but it hasn't been so onerous that we needed to fix it. Southern California is an exception to that. They've adjudicated a lot of their groundwater basins decades ago. It took them a long time. And I think the example of the pain that people went through to adjudicate those basins has kept a lot of people in Northern California from wanting to adjudicate basins. But certainly Southern California ran into these problems first and has had groundwater management for decades.
So,
Jay, explain to our listeners what a basin means.
So if you have a groundwater basin and everybody's pumping and the total pumping is a lot more than the recharge, so the groundwater levels are going down, people start suing each other as their wells go dry.
Mm-hmm.
And when enough people sue each other, it goes to court. And it keeps getting worse and worse. And so eventually, over time, what has happened in Southern California is many of the bigger water users come to some agreement on how to divide the groundwater up, to limit the groundwater use, and then to manage the import of additional surface water typically. And then they'll take that to the judge and negotiate with the judge to include the rest of the groundwater users in the basin, so that the judge will agree to that settlement among the groundwater pumpers, and that's called an adjudicated basin.
So it's kind of like it's a solution to a tragedy of the commons situation.
That's exactly right.
I like that. That showing your economic background there, Inge. Good job.
There you go. I didn't fall asleep during that class. I was at Davis, so I was always awake at Davis because people like Jay were teaching me. I mean, not Jay, but
better
the
people.
Previous generation.
I think I'm going to get that announcer who does the boxing things, and every time we talk about this, are you ready to rumble? And let that play. Change the subject a little bit. I know a lot of people down here in Southern California don't know much about things called nitrates and nitrites. There's hundreds of thousands of customers in the top farming regions that are experiencing nitrate contamination in their drinking water. And a lot of it's in Tulare Lake Basin and Salinas Valley groundwater. With and the sources of this comes from what I know, various places such as leaching from irrigating crop fields and live stock operations, municipal wastewater, and leaching from turf grass. But how is the Harder report on nitrate contamination, primarily in agriculture regions, affecting SGMA, in your opinion?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I think it will affect it. What the major finding of that report was that most of the nitrate that's going into the groundwater basins in the Tulare and Salinas areas is agricultural, either from dairies, manure from dairies, or from excess fertilizer on crops. This is a price we pay for modern agriculture, modern productivity in agriculture. Every part of the world that has modern productive agriculture has nitrate accumulations in their groundwater. So it's not just California; it's everywhere in the world. And the problem is that the nitrate in groundwater, if you drink that water above a certain concentration, it can be very bad for infants. It's an acute problem of blue baby syndrome that the nitrate absorbs the oxygen in the blood more than the red blood cells, and so they're pretty careful about it. For the larger communities, they either drill deeper wells or they treat. The smaller communities, it's very expensive for them to treat because they're very small. They don't have any economies of scale. And then for the individual households, it's also very expensive to treat just for your own house. So the bigger communities like Fresno, they have maybe 100 wells, and they can rotate the wells and they can do treatment. It's still expensive, but they can figure out a way to afford it. So it's really a problem for the rural small communities and the individual rural households.
Well, I've read that California has, in terms of its drought management and how it tries to prepare for future droughts, borrowed ideas or perhaps contacted other agencies or academic institutions in Israel and in Australia to try to learn from them how we might better respond and be resilient to future drought situations. Is there much to learn there, do you think, in sharing information and sharing experiences?
Well, there's certainly been a lot of exchanges and a lot of conversations among professional folks and industry folks. All of these regions are a little different. Israel's actually a pretty small place, and has a lot less water than we do. So a lot of things that they do for their crops, we would find too expensive here. Australia, we've learned some things from Australia too, but it turns out that most of their big groundwater basins are saline, so you can't use groundwater there to help get you through droughts very well. So actually California does pretty well. There's some things we can learn from other places, and we should, but they learn as much from us as we learn from them.
Interesting. And so kind of going back to Sigma, and do you think between the fact that we do have this ample groundwater, we did at one point in time, but we've been overdrafting it, and then trying to take advantage of those rainy seasons, will conjunctive use, an approach by water managers, do you think, grow over time? Do you think that's an area that's going to be developed more groundwater storage?
So. I think so. Part of this will be capturing what surface water you can, and some of it will be reducing water use on the surface during the wetter years so that you can bank that water. We're clearly going to have to do a combination of both of those. In much of the state, we're not going to have to fallow very much, but I think in the San Joaquin Valley, we're going to have to fallow a fair percentage, maybe 10, 20%.
Wow.
Of the agricultural land over the long term. Now, that's not to say we're going to lose 10 or 20% of the jobs, because we'll take the least productive land out of production first. But you will definitely see it and feel it down there.
But there are also some farmers that are showing that we can deliberately recharge the groundwater with the crop still on the ground.
Yes,
Don Cameron.
That's right. That's right.
And great vineyards, so we don't have to take it out of production, maybe.
The only problem with that is you don't often have water to put on the field.
Yeah, it has to be in a high flow year.
That's right.
Sure.
That's right. And we don't have as many of those as we'd like.
Yeah. We'll hope for more in the future. That's
right. That's right.
Yeah. Well, Jay, you've also written about kind of a different tack again about the big state and federal water agencies and how we developed the West, and Mark Reisner's book, Cadillac Desert, and that was a whole era in and of itself, really, and that things are different now, and these larger-than-life individuals from the past that kind of ran the show are no more, and that we might need to rethink how our federal and state agencies function and progress and become reinvigorated with our new, realities that we're facing today. Problems today are different than they were 50 years ago. How in your mind can this happen? I think you've talked about networks of people rather than individuals. You have any examples or ideas about?
Yeah, there's a really nice book I wrote a review on CaliforniaWaterblog.com a little while ago by John Fleck, who's a water writer in New Mexico. He's from California originally, but he writes a lot about California and the Colorado River in particular. And he has a recent book out called Whiskeys for Drinking and Waters for Fighting Over. And he looks in particular at the Colorado River basin and notes from Mark Reisner's Cadillac Desert, it looked all very gloomy and doomy from that. But if you look at that basin now, they certainly have problems, certainly have big problems, but it's not catastrophic. Farmers have found ways to make money from selling water. Farmers have found that if they fallow a modest amount of land, they can save a lot of water and still keep most of their profits, sort of like California moving to the more profitable crops. That urban areas can implement a lot of water conservation, and by conjunctive use and water markets can keep really essentially all of their economy going on with a good bit less water demand than people had anticipated back in the 60s and 70s.
It's really a message of collaboration. He and Pat Mulroy in that book
right.
And others talk about collaborating rather than fighting. So.
And the key to making these changes and the operational changes and the cooperation is to have a network of individuals among the different agencies that have a common understanding of the problem and a willingness and understand the need to work together to change the way you manage it from the old way of looking at this system developed in the 1930s and 1940s to the way we're going to have to do it for the modern economy and the modern ecosystem with a lot more people.
Well, that's going to bring us up to the end of our show. And God, Jay, we just started. Wanted to ask you a ton more questions.
We're going to have to, with your permission, invite you back. And thank you so much for the information you provided. I think Inge will agree. It was great.
We were going to call you the water czar, but I want to promote you to the king. But but we have to go because it's NBC NewsHour. And Jay, we really appreciate you coming on the show. And where can we get a hold of you if somebody needs to ask you real quick?
They can Google me and find me at UC Davis.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Everybody have a good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and remember, everybody.
We look forward to having you again.
Absolutely.
It's my pleasure.
Everybody have a good week, and remember, most importantly, think blue.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.
From the KCAA Weather Center, I'm Rod Tanner. For tonight, it'll be clear, low 63. We'll have sunshine Friday with a high of 93. Friday night, it'll be clear, low 64. We'll have a sunny Saturday, our high 93. Saturday night, we'll have some patchy fog. Otherwise, it'll be increasingly cloudy, low 65. We'll have patchy fog well into Sunday morning. Otherwise, cloudy skies will gradually clear with a high of 92. Again, for tonight, it'll be clear with a low 63. We'll have a sunny Friday with a high of 93. That's your weather forecast for this hour from KCAA, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM. 3-in-1, the trifecta of talk in Southern California.
NBC News Radio, I'm Tom Roberts. The driver who rammed a van into a crowd in Barcelona is still on the loose hours after the deadly terrorist attack. At least 13 people were killed and over 100 more were hurt when a car was driven onto a pedestrian walkway in the popular tourist area of Las Ramblas. Police say the driver was trying to kill as many people as possible, and they have arrested 2 suspects so far. ISIS has claimed that its followers were behind the attack. President Trump is taking to Twitter to condemn the terrorist attack in Spain.
Trump tweeting that the U.S. is ready to do whatever is necessary to help. Trump advising Spaniards to remain tough and strong and added, quote, "We love you."
That's Lisa Carter. A senior Republican congressman is questioning President Trump's ability to lead after Trump's controversial comments about the weekend violence in Charlottesville, Virginia. Speaking in Chattanooga today, Tennessee Senator Bob Corker said Trump has not shown the competence needed to lead the nation.
Without the things that I just mentioned happening, our nation is going to go through great peril.
Corker also says he thinks there must be radical changes within the White House. Attorney General Jeff Sessions says the U.S. will not be held hostage by violent gangs.
We're looking to reduce crime, to take the bloom off the rose of these gangs, to send a message to young people. You join a gang, you're going to jail. You're not living the high life. This is not the thing you want to be involved in.
Speaking in North Carolina today, Sessions said criminal gangs are contributing to the rise of violent crime in the U.S. A former IT staffer who worked for Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz is being indicted.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Penn.
And welcome. You are tuned into my weekly talk radio show called Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa every Tuesday at naturally high noon out of the Sunset Gower Studios in Hollywood, California with Universal Broadcasting Network TV and radio, and every Thursday and Saturday on my syndicated CNBC News Radio channel, KCAA, AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and now everywhere syndicated on iHeartRadio. And this is a show about hope and happiness. So there's no gossip, no scandal, and no K words, no Kardashian talk at all. In fact, there's no tea talk either. We're not going there. So because I want to balance out all of the CNN, all the constantly negative news with good news. So I have guests and topics that affirm hope and happiness. So I am welcoming you to the show if you're a first-time listener or you've tuned in all 275 weeks consecutive on this show. Welcome to you. I do want you to focus on your own reality show and how you can be happy 88% of the time. And as per usual, if you've missed any of my fun shows with Marianne from Gilligan's Island to Nitro from the American Gladiators, go to my YouTube channels and share. My YouTube views are now over 97,000 thanks to you and your support. And for those of you who don't know what share means, or if you think I almost said a bad word, I'm going to teach you something today that I teach my students normally at the beginning of class. So I teach balanced Tai Chi Gong, which is a combination between Tai Chi and Qigong. And the right hand in martial arts, Tai Chi, is usually the fighting hand. So I ask you to close your fighting hand to show that you come in peace. And you hold the peace and you bring it down by heart chakra and you do a little bow anytime you want to acknowledge anyone in your life and say xie, which is Mandarin for thank you, or my Chinese namaste instead of namaste. So there's your lesson to start the show. And I am going to give a piece out to my new listeners after my leadership talk at GCCCD in San Diego. They were kind enough to summarize my session with a hashtag slam dunk. And thanks for all of the birthday wishes this last week. It has been awesome. My daughters took me on the train the day before my presentation and had a blast shopping in Solano Beach and then went to Del Mar. So thank you. And I love you girls. Thank you so much for your beautiful poem and words of love. If you want to see those, just go to my go to my Facebook and you can see all of that. Also, excellent customer service. Shout outs to Jonathan, my Uber driver. All the folks on Amtrak, especially the ones that sang me happy birthday, and the Doubletree Hilton. Now, today, we are on the second week of the month. It's one of my favorite shows. It's the call-in show where I get to be Dr. Marissa, the kinder, gentler Dr. Laura. Thanks to my show producer, Jarvis Essex. You get to sign in ahead of time so you don't have to wait on hold. And it's a time for us to, I give advice that I don't use. Sometimes I do use it to help you balance your life tires and smog check your thinking. Your stinking thinking. If you have any questions or have missed any of the shows, I go from body image to bullying to jobs and career. Just go to my YouTube, the playlist called Balance. All right, and it's time for our first caller. So who do we have here? I'd like to welcome Tracy from New Jersey. Good morning, Tracy.
Good morning, Dr. Marissa. How are you?
I am.
Happy belated birthday.
Oh, thank you. And happy is how I am, and happy is where we're going to try to get you a little bit happier, if that's possible. Yeah. And so the first thing I'd like you to do is put your feet on the ground and palms up in your lap, unless you're driving. Gently close your eyes, taking a deep breath in through the nose. And releasing all the stories and the drama. Another deep breath in, connecting with me through Chi, eternal energy. And when you're ready, open your eyes. I can feel you. My fingers are tingling. On a scale of 1 to 10, let's look at a couple categories in your life. In the category of relationships, how would you rate your relationships in your life on a scale of 1 to 10? 1 being not so great, 10 being fabulous.
I would say my relationships are probably like a 7, so I think we're fine there.
All right, let's move to the category of health and well-being. Scale of 1 to 10, same scale.
Yeah, I think I'm right, like at maybe a 4 or 5 there.
All right. And last category, job and career. Same scale.
Yeah, I would probably put that as like an 8.
Oh, okay. So we know where we're going. We're going to do health and well-being. So why do you think the number is not at an 8? What would have to change for you to rate your health and well-being at 8?
Well, I've been having quite a few health challenges for maybe a couple of years now, and I I remember listening to a show that you did with a lady that you guys were talking about glandular health. I think there was like a book you guys were talking, and she was like a sexpert or something. And you didn't talk about it very much, but I ended up buying the book. And I got in touch with, my glandular system through that book, The Tao of Sexology.
Okay.
And I am challenged with thyroid issues. My thyroid is low, and I understand that the thyroid is the master gland. And so, I know that you're not an MD, and so I'm not calling for medical advice, but I know that part of my health issue is that I've kind of done a number on myself with my mind concerning, just issues that have arisen in my life that I've been, maybe down in my spirit about. And I kind of just lingered too long in the low mood areas of my
low vibration.
Keeping a low, a low vibration in the area, concerning like, just things that made me unhappy, losses that I've suffered. And I just kind of want to break that habit of kind of letting feeling down be my go-to direction that I go in with my emotions, because I know now that I have really been tearing myself down with that kind of feeling and thinking about, and that's probably the biggest culprit as to, my health issues. And if I did that with my mind in the wrong direction, I'd like to do that with my mind in the right direction. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Great awareness. Congratulations. You're halfway there, because you have acknowledged and owned that you are keeping yourself in a low vibration place. And we all know now it's not a hypothesis. There's data from medical research that how we believe and think and where we are vibrationally, energetically, can impact our health. So if you are down in the dumps, as you say, your body will also mirror that down in the dumps. And the longer you're there, and the more you wallow in it, and the more you marinate in it, and the more you ruinade in it, then guess what? You stay there. And then there's habits that form. And so I'm not surprised that your body, the good news is, you ready, Tracy? Your body is telling you enough. Okay, so that's all the indications, the thyroid levels, the glandular. The good news is your body saying, "Hello, we need a change. Can we stop this?" Yes. Okay, so you get that. So that we can really make this relevant and exact without the entire scenario, but I know that your critic and your sad one, the voices in your head that keep you in that low vibration, tell me what they say. I miss them so much. Why did they have to go? It's not fair. Why do all the good ones go? I can't do something without them. I really wish they were still here. Does any of that ring true?
Well, I think more for me, I've been very sedentary, and I've just kind of been glued to the mattress. Like, I take a long time to get my day started because I just feel so overwhelmed with as much as I have to do. And I talk myself out of doing things that I know I need to get done. Taking things off of my to-do list feels like such a daunting task. It just feels like I just feel so weighed down with so many things to do, and every day I'll let something else slip away from me and either partially do it or don't get it done or wait until the last part of the week, and I'm back in overwhelm and not getting it done because I struggle with feeling alone. And I think there's a difference between alone and lonely. Like I would love to have a small team of people that I could call in and they'd roll up their sleeves with me and do things, but everybody's doing their own thing, so it's not always easy to recruit others. And so I feel alone and overwhelmed with a very long to-do list of things, and then I just get sedentary again.
Right. So this question just came at me for you, which is, why are you punishing yourself?
What did I say that sounded like punishment? Although I do feel beat up. I do.
Yeah. So why? What about what has happened?
I think I'm just beating myself up with how long I've been like this. I feel a little guilty about how long I've been like this.
Okay, well, guilt is not a paying job. And would you say that you've been feeling guilty for a long time?
Yeah, and it's made me exhausted.
Okay.
I'm exhausted.
So you know that we can stop like right now.
Yes, please.
Okay. So raise your right hand.
Right hand up.
I, Tracy.
I, Tracy.
Choose not to.
Choose not to.
Be in guilt.
Be in guilt.
From this point forward.
From this point forward.
I have punished.
Amen.
I have punished myself.
I have punished myself.
Enough.
Enough, Tracy. Enough.
Enough. I am looking forward to.
I'm looking forward to.
Loving myself.
Loving myself.
And acting on my own behalf.
And acting on my own behalf.
And so it is. And so it is. Okay, so here's what's going on. So you have a couple of voices in your head. One saying, you got to do this, 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 and this. And when you do those things, then things will get better. Yeah, and you start off like that.
Yeah,
right.
It does.
And before you go to tomorrow's a new day, and we're going to do it. And then you wake up, and then you say that, and then you have another voice that says, I don't feel like it.
Yep.
I don't want to. You're not the boss of me, and it's too late.
Yep.
And
oh my God.
It won't do any good anyways, and you might as well give up because it's not going to make a difference.
Oh my God. You're in my head. You're so in my head right now.
I love when that gets said. So you've got your critic going and you've got your brat going. Okay.
Yeah.
And they're at war in your head. So I want you to grow, because with your right hand, you made the oath with your balance center Tracy. So BCT is balance center Tracy. So I want you to name your critic. Your critic's name is? Who was very hard on you when you grew up?
I just want to call her a nuisance.
A nuisance? Okay. Yes, we can call her Nancy. Sounds like nuisance, okay? So Nancy is the one who's critic. Now, be careful not to get critic mixed up with balance center Tracy, because balance center Tracy is saying, you can do it. We've got, doable stuff on here. It doesn't matter if we don't get it all done, but we can make a difference. Okay, so that's balance center Tracy. Nancy is the one saying, don't bother because it's not going to make a difference. You're a loser. You're a failure. It's never going to, work anyways. Okay, so that's nuisance or Nancy. Okay, the brat. Who's bratty in your life?
Me. Okay. I'm the brat.
Okay, but you can't use your Tracy because that's balance center Tracy. So you've got a very strong brat, and her name is, give me a name. Beulah. Beulah the brat.
Sounds bossy. Beulah sounds bossy.
Okay, give me another one then. How about Brenda? Brenda the brat? My brat's name's Agnes. I think that's
Brittany.
Oh,
Brittany's
that's
our brat.
a good one. So Brittany is your brat, and Brittany's the one saying, no, I don't feel like it. I don't want to do it. I want to stay in bed. It's easier this way. And all of the reasons why I deserve to stay in bed. Okay?
Oh, you sound just like her.
Yeah. So Brittany has been driving your life car. and she's driving it off of a cliff. Now, you could, and this is balance-centered Tracy, has to learn how to talk to both of them. So my suggestion is to start in the morning, and you're going to, as balance-centered Tracy, the first thing you're going to do is just stop the way I asked you to stop at the beginning and just breathe. And you do the 2 minutes of breathing, and that's your connection to the universe, the friendly universe, whose energy you and I are connected to right now with the connection, right? We breathe together, and you're feeling me, and I'm feeling you, and we're connected. You connect that same way with an energy source. I call it my universal power source, my UPS man. And he delivers every morning when I pray and meditate. So you start the day with that connection. You don't have to believe in God. You don't have to say God. You don't have to go to church. I'm just acknowledging that we are all 7.3 billion of us connected to something that's bigger than us. That's absolutely incredible. Okay? And I choose to believe that way because it just feels better, and then I don't get so tired. So you plug in with the breathing, and then you actively be grateful. So I want 8 things that you're grateful for. So you sound like you're a fun person, you're a caring person, you are capable, okay? You have a track record, you've done things before, you've accomplished things before, you're easy to get along with, you are fun.
You saying those things about what I've been learning, because I think I heard you mention that you teach Tai Chi, and I recently purchased a Tai Chi video by a very popular, very well-known kind of Tai Chi guru. I think his first name is Kenneth, but I can't think of his last name right now.
Okay, well, I won't yell at you for not buying mine, but that's okay.
I apologize. I found out about him through a friend who swore by him when she was pregnant. And then I also recently got a hold to a book called The Art of Learning by Josh Waitzlin, and he's the guy that the Searching for Bobby Fischer movie was written about. And
wonderful.
He also is a Tai Chi master. And turned it into martial arts and championships.
So you've already started. You're on your way. And if you've just tuned in and you're wondering who I'm talking to right now, I'm talking to Tracy from New Jersey. It is Call-In Tuesday, live out of the Sunset Gower Studios on Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It. Just in case, just wanted to do the identification. So now, Tracy, what I want you to do, though, is I want you to be kind and thank your critic and thank your brat for keeping you, alive. Basically, they've kept you alive. You're not going to scold them. You're not going to tell them they're wrong because they'll just act up that way. But I want you to strengthen your own ability to act on your own behalf. And how do you do that? You do that 15 minutes at a time. You say, I would like to get ready in half the time that it usually takes me. All right? And your critic will say, I don't think you can do it. Or the brat will say, no, I don't feel like it. And you'll say, thank you very much. Critic, you've been working overtime. Please have a seat on the passenger seat. And lovely Brittany, you get to ride shotgun or in the back seat. Because you know what? You got to be tired. You've been working overtime, and we've had a lot of time staying in bed. And that time's over, and I would like to live my life now. I'd like to take us all out on a date. I'd like to take us out on something that you want to do. So what's a good goal for you that if you do 30 consecutive days and follow what your balance-centered Tracy maps out as a realistic goal, after 30 days, where can you take your brat that your brat likes to go?
Swimming and hiking.
Okay, swimming and hiking. So that's your 30. So you get a calendar, and every day you mark off, was I able to do 88% of the things that I put on my list? So the list has to be realistic, no more than 8 things on your list, and you just do things 15 minutes at a time. Put a resume together is not one thing on your list because that takes more than one try. everything is 15 minutes at a time. So give me some things that you want to put on your list that you would like to have as a goal.
Well, I think it's quite interesting that you would suggest a 15-minute time frame, because I think I heard from a writer, I want to say T.D. Jakes, who said that if you write 15 minutes at a time, before you know it, you'll have a book. And I've been wanting to start a blog, so I need to get it out of my head. Yep. And 15 minutes worth of writing would be perfect.
Yeah, perfect. So you can do that on email and hit Save Draft. Okay, so 15 minutes of that. 15 minutes. How long does it usually take you to get up and out?
Oh my God, that's up in the air because I get distracted.
Okay, all right. So you put a checklist down of every single thing you need to do to get out the door. Okay, so that's your homework.
If I'm focused, I can, like 30 minutes.
Okay, so here's the deal. Your Balance Center Tracy, her new song is called Focus. So you're going to focus. And it is, okay, Brittany, focus. Nancy, focus. And it takes practice. Your weakest voice, your weakest muscle is acting on your own behalf. So you're just going to practice it and practice, if you practice for 21 days in a row, it will become a habit. You've been practicing not doing that for probably more than 21 days. So it takes contrary action. It takes another force going the opposite way, and just go easy, right? So the first day you only get 4 done. That's okay. The next day you get 5 done. It's okay. I'm starting again trying, push-ups and sit-ups. I do them, and at 5 it starts being uncomfortable. I go, okay, tomorrow I'll do 6. The next day I'll do 7. So it's just a go easy in that momentum towards what you want. Because
that's really cool too that you would say that, because in New Jersey, everything is really just flat, and I know I called it hiking because I really want to learn to jog. Mm-hmm. So I call it hiking to make myself feel more powerful, because I'm not jogging yet, but I'm on my way. So
yes, you are.
People have been saying to me that I should walk and run a little bit, and so I call it hiking because it makes me sound stronger.
Yeah, and you are strong, and your critic is so strong that everything is telling you how you don't know enough. You need to know more. You need to learn more. You need to do more. Just back off, Nancy.
Yeah.
So that's your Balance Center Tracy. I'm talking as you. Just go easy. Do the best that you can. I want you to write this down. Have I done the best that I can with the time that I have and the resources I have?
Oh, that's good. Have I
done the best that I can with the time that I have and the resources I have? 88% of the time.
Have I done the best that I can?
I love your accent, by the way. Very Jersey. Have I done the best that I can with the time that I have and the resources I have?
The time.
You sound like my Aunt Penny and my Aunt Ethel.
I have. With the time that I have, and what was the rest?
The resources I have.
And the resources.
So that's going to go on a Post-it by your nightstand.
That's what I'm writing on. Oh, my God.
By the side of your bed. And you're going to read that, and you're going to say yes, no matter what. Balance Center Tracy is going to say yes, no matter what, for the next 21 days, because we don't want your critic to get in there. And then the last thing to do is I want you to pivot into a better feeling thought. So anytime you are thinking something that does not make you feel good, okay, so don't look at your thyroid numbers. Don't talk about your thyroid. Don't talk about your glands. Don't talk about anything that doesn't make you feel good. Do you understand me, balance-centered Tracy?
Yes, ma'am. I get that. Yeah.
So anytime you
I like that pivot. Pivot, is that what you said?
Yes,
Pivot.
pivot. Do not just turn the other way. Turn to a better feeling thought. That I mix that.
Basketball players do that,
yes,
right? Don't
yes,
they do that?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
they do. So you're
okay.
Yeah. So
I dated a few of them, so yeah, I could do that.
Good. So you're gonna go Nike. You're gonna go Nike on me, and it's just do it. Got it?
Okay.
All right.
Yes.
And Jarvis is giving me the time. So I am going to wish you well. I'm going to put you on a check-in with me. Let's give you 3 months. So check back in with me in 3 months and see how we're doing. I want you to practice every day. I want you to go to my Facebook on Dr. Marissa and give me the finger. Give me a thumbs up so that, you know, and you can, you know, message me or say another day gone or another week gone, because I really want this to work for you. Okay?
Thank you. Yes. Okay.
Beautiful. Peace and blessings to you. Thanks for being on the show, Tracy. All righty. And it is that time for our sponsors to make the show possible. We will be back with more callers on Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa. I'll be back in 2 and 2. Peace in and peace out. Okay, jazz lovers, it's time to celebrate life with a Catalina Island weekend getaway with jazz greats like Rick Braun, Richard Elliott, Manhattan Transfer, Take 6, Gerald Albright, and Norman Brown. Don't miss the 31st Jazz Tracks Festival at the beautiful Avalon Casino on Catalina Island 2 weekends, October 12th and 19th. Tickets are selling out fast, so go to jazztracks.com. That's jazztracks with an X.com today. Do you live in Southern California? Want a great car wash with an instant discount? Want to save big on a car detail? Then mention Dr. Marissa at the Cypress Car Spa for up to $40 off of a professional detail package and any $4 off any wash. Cypress Car Wash is located at the corner of Valley View and Cerritos, 6000 Cerritos Avenue. So get ready to save. Mention Dr. Marissa at Cypress Car Spa and save today. And we are back. And yes, please do join me. I will be at Jazz Track Catalina Island this year, even though a lot of people saw me on TV with the Long Beach Jazz Festival. This year I am covering the Jazz Track, so please do meet me there in October. Tickets are selling out, and I am doing an Asian Oprah giveaway at the end of the show with those some jazz tickets. So listen to the end to find out how. As well, it's raining today in Southern California. Tomorrow you will want to go and get a car wash at the Cypress Car Spa. Greg was kind enough to offer discounts, $4 off any car wash, so there's no excuse. Use me and my name, Dr. Marissa, at the Cypress Car Spa. And we are ready for caller number 2, who is calling in from one of my favorite places on the planet, San Francisco. Welcome, Dee Dee, to the show.
Hi, how are you?
I am happy, thank you. And we're going to start by connecting. If you could put your feet on the ground, your palms up, and eyes gently closed, taking a deep breath in with me. And releasing, soft shoulders, soft elbows, soft knees, good. And another deep breath in. And releasing all the stories and the drama. And one more deep breath in, connecting with me through Chi Eternal Energy. And when you're ready, open your eyes. And on a scale of 1 to 10, Dee Dee, looking at your health and well-being category of your life, how would you rate it? 0 or 1 being not that great and 10 being fabulous. Where are you in health and well-being?
I'd say 7.
7. Fabulous.
Pretty good. Yeah,
Yes, that's
yeah,
awesome.
room for
Let's
improvement.
celebrate. All right. And the category of relationships. Where would you put your number?
I would say, well, maybe 5.
Okay. And then
Yeah.
last but not least, job and career. Where would you put that number?
I would say 5 to that as well.
All right. So it's a choice. What would you like to talk about? Which category?
Which category? I know that it's, let's see. Let me just pick one. We'll go with career, job and career.
Great. What would it look like to get that number up? What is missing?
Consistency, passion, direction.
Okay, pretty clear on that. So you have a
Yeah.
job now. You have a job now.
I do contract work.
Okay.
So yeah, and I have some other opportunities that have presented themselves, and there's also my own desire to work for myself, my own entrepreneurial things. So I feel like I have a lot of things that I can do, and a lot of things that I am good at.
Yeah, that's great.
But I feel like I don't know what to put that energy to. I feel like in the past I've put a lot of energy towards other people's projects, and I'm wanting to, focus on my own and my own stuff, but I'm just not sure exactly where to start, and that I recognize that I have believed more in other people's stuff than my own things. So I want to get rid of that and get to the right the steps that I need to take to do what I need to do.
Fabulous. So let's see, where would I like to go, or where am I being told to go with this? So the easiest way to move into something different is to love where you are. So a lot of people hate their job, they hate what they're doing, and they want to do something else, and that's the worst way to move into something new, because you can't get get there from here, if I'm to use Esther and Jerry Hicks' law of attraction. So the quickest way, and we're going to do this now, what do you like and what do you love about what you do now?
And I feel like the easier way to answer that is like I really love everything. It's just that it's not consistent, and I'd rather be doing it for myself.
Okay.
So I don't like hate. It's what I'm doing is still not a typical 9 to 5. So I created what I'm currently doing, but it's just not. I want more, and it's from I want to be doing what I've been doing in a sales and marketing way, but for myself.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So do you how many hours a day do you work for in that capacity?
On average, 4 or 5.
4 or 5. Okay.
But it kind of depends. Yeah, it depends on the project, and sometimes, but on average, that. Yeah.
Okay. So the other 4 or 5, what do you do?
I'm new to the area where I work, to the Bay, so exploring, and finishing a master's degree as well.
Oh, good. So you're in school. Okay. So you are acting on your own behalf that way. So the good news is sky's the limit. And there are so many possibilities. There's so many things that could pop up. All you need to do is to be in a place where you can see the opportunity. Okay? And the way you can see it is staying in your openness. So there's certain statements that will help you stay in that, and there are certain statements that will keep you from being in that place. Okay? So do you have an hour to spare every day?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can make an hour for sure. Yeah.
Perfect. So you're going to have a play hour, and it's your inspiration hour, and it's going to be called my See What Happens hour. There's no goal. There's nothing to do except play in.
See what happens.
Exactly. You're going to be in a playground of infinite possibility.
That's really interesting because I do that when I find myself irritated and I'm frustrated or in a place of just like, I'm just irritated and I don't know why.
Yes.
I just say that I'm not going to do anything, and I'll like get a glass of wine and I'll paint, or I'll play the piano, or like I'll just do whatever I feel like doing.
Good. And that's very good. And that's exactly what you do. Okay. So you're aware that you're not in a high vibrating place. You're in a low vibrating place. So you pivot and you do something different to get yourself in that high vibrating. And then I want you to sit at the computer. So once you get yourself in that place, and so if you have any thoughts that say it's really the economic environment is really bad, I don't know why I'm getting this master's, I don't know if it's going to help, I don't know what I'm going to be doing, there's not a lot of jobs out there, I'm tired of working for somebody else, I wish somebody would work for me the way that I work for them. I see all those statements keep you it low. Okay, so if you're thinking that way and you're saying those things, get them out and get them gone. Okay, so you can write them down, you can type them, hit save draft, and then delete. So you need to make sure that when you're sitting at the at Christina, I call it Christina because my niece works for Google, so we do Christina Play, not Google Play, but that's your playground. So what you're going to do is you're going to get yourself in that place, and once you're in that place, you sit with the search bar. Your search bar is your best friend. We're so lucky. We are so lucky now that we have everything at our fingertips. And you just sit down and you put things like marketing. You put things like international marketing. You put things like San Francisco marketing. You put things like marketing play. You put things like a master's in play or a master's in what you're doing, and high paying jobs in blank. And you just play.
Well, what's been coming up, I've done that. What keeps coming up for me is mediation.
Okay.
Which is something I'm not even familiar with, but I've apparently been doing.
Okay.
So I'm very intrigued for you to. That's interesting.
Yeah. And then you just follow that impulse. So you have that. It's like, oh, that sounds interesting, and then go explore that. I bet you there's a mediation place that's looking for volunteers to help, and they'll train you in the kind of mediation process that they do. I'm sure of it in San Francisco. And I know you're going to find it, and you're going to come back and go, you were right. Because there's so many opportunities. There's so much fun out there. There's so many good jobs. There's so many inspiring things that you get to do. There's so many places that is perfect for your fit in your qualities and your gifts and your talents. So when you're there, that's when you're going to see it. You're going to be walking down in your exploration phase, and you're going to get an impulse to turn right. And you're going to turn right. It may be like complete and you're just going to do it. And then you'll see a poster on the wall, or you're going to see a help wanted, or you're going to see volunteers needed, or you're going to see something, and you're going to go, oh, let me check that out. And then you're going to, and then maybe you'll go to have a coffee and you end up sitting beside someone, or you go to the bathroom and you're waiting in line with someone else, and you just don't know. That's how things happen. That's the magic of life. That is the joyride of life that all of us can get on. If we want, if we choose to get on it. But in order to do that, you have to stop the thoughts that keep us in that low vibrating place. That's it. So I don't want to hear anymore, I don't want to work for someone else's dreams, because that's a low negative motivation place. I want you to say, and it's the same thing, I can't wait to work for my dreams. Do you see the difference?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay? So we can just drop the negativity. We can just, and okay, yes, I am Pollyanna. I'm sorry. I'm not going to apologize for it because it just makes me feel better. That's what I want to do. That's what I want to be in life, is a good feeling, an instrument of peace and a channel of love. That's what I want. So why would I put all the blockages in the way of things that are not that way? Because the law of attraction says, it's just like gravity, it works whether we believe it or not, that if I focus on what I want, I get more of that. When people talk to me and they are complaining and they are wishing that they were somewhere else. I actually have a woman who messages me on Facebook, and she has a litany of things that are going wrong in her life, and she wants me to help. And I told her, I cannot help you. I don't have the time to help you, and I know she doesn't have the money energy to pay me to coach her. So what I did with her is said, you know what? I'm happy to hear from you, but only the good stuff. And she started doing that. And it's amazing. She's now planting gardens. She's feeling better. She's gotten opportunities where she didn't have before. She's painting. So it works, but the discipline is in the choice of focus. It really, it's a discipline. It's not easy. It's really not easy. I don't, beyond, saying I'm praying for you or I'm breathing you the best, I let people make their choices because I can't force them to do something they don't want to do because it just drags me down. And I am no good to anyone if I'm drugged out. Trust me, it ain't pretty. Ask my daughters. So that's what I'd like you to do. And I promise that if you get that muscle going, that's your balance center DD, you get that strengthened up and you leave your critic there that's just constantly saying, you're better than this, you shouldn't be doing that, you shouldn't be helping other people, you should be, that's negative motivation from your critic. You say, thank you very much, but I know what our dreams are and we're working towards that. And an hour a day we get to play. Okay? And then the brat that says, no, I'd rather just go and go to a bar and waste my time and go make fun of people while they come in. And you say, thank you very much, brat. That's not what we're doing either because it's not lifting. It's not a lifting activity. I'm going to play the piano. I'm going to go take a walk. I am going to take an inspired walk. You get me? You're there. You know it. I'm just affirming what you already know and encouraging you with a gentle kick in the heart. No.
Yeah. This is and it's funny because I was thinking I don't know what I need to discuss because I kind of have some ideas, but honestly, I currently live in Oakland, but have been considering and wanting to live in San Francisco. So it's really funny that you introduced me as living in San Francisco.
Yep.
But it's just this voice that says that's crazy, but it's I can't explain it, but there's a feeling that's there.
And go with that feeling. It will be there. Just look for it. Yes?
Yeah.
Yay! Thank you, Dee Dee from San Francisco, soon to be. Thanks for calling in, darling.
You.
Check in again.
Okay.
All righty. That was fun. I just love doing call-ins. They are my favorite. No, I shouldn't say favorite show because then my other guests wouldn't be very happy that I said that. But I do love it because I never know what's going to get downloaded out of my mouth. And just so you know, if you think I'm running my mouth, I always say before a call-in show, speak through me, don't let me get in the way, and let the words be thine and the voice be mine. And it's always good, because I got nothing to do with it, and we all have access to that. And if it sounds like I'm being a little more woo-woo, I definitely, this year after my birthday, I've decided that I want to balance myself a little more. Yeah, it's never too late. And I know that I'm really strong in my head, and I lead with my thoughts, and I've cognitively done a lot. But it's time for me to come from the heart. And that is what I claimed in at the choir. I didn't talk about pleasure or bedrooms this time on my birthday to claim. I claimed love. I want to be in, through, as, and completely smothered, and a channel of love for this next year. That's what I'm claiming, and I'm claiming it on the air, so it's going to come true. It is that time at the end of the show where we do, I invite you to step up to my balance bar and find out how you can balance with me. And it's also the time where I give my Asian Oprah giveaways. So today I'm giving 2 Sunday, actually no, we'll just do one full weekend. The second weekend for the Jazz Tracks Festival. So go to www.jazztrackswithanx.com and take a look. Huge lineup of jazz greats. I'm giving 1 complete weekend. I think it's like I don't know, hundreds of dollars it's worth. I didn't check out the value. So the first person to go to drmarissa.tv will be the one who gets that free ticket. So please do that, and I would love to give that to you. The balance tip for today, day 15 for the 21-day fast from complaining with Dr. Marissa. Much complaining stems from our critic in our heads that incessantly chants the woulda, shoulda, couldas, especially loud in many women who think they are less attractive, less smart, and more heavy than they actually are. Many men, on the other hand, seem to think they're better looking, more buff, and have more hair than they actually do. So today, have a guy day and don't complain. That's from my 52 card. Pick me up, Stacking the Deck for Life Balance with Dr. Marissa. If you'd like your own copy of that, or to join the fast, it's not too late, and you can do 21 days consecutive without complaining. You'll win a free pack at the number 4balance.org. And as usual, all proceeds from all of my Balance products go to my piecework around the planet. This Saturday, I'll be preparing scholarship winners for the AWE, the Asian Women Entrepreneurs Annual Luncheon. I'm grateful to have received the Business Person of the Year Lotus Award back in 2014 from them. If you'd like to join me on September 15th for a very worthy cause, fundraising scholarships for Asian women who really would like a better life than just having to work in areas that they'll get nasal infections. I had one woman be able to go back to school so she didn't have to work at the salon anymore. Please go to aweusa.org to register. And next week I have in studio another fellow faculty from CEO Space International, the largest entrepreneurial university, #1 by Forbes and Inc. magazine, who's been to hell and back, also known as jail, and all because he cooperated with the authorities. Aaron Scott Young will be live next week to explain why everything happens for a good reason. He's the unshackled guy, and he will be in studio, so please do tune it in one more time to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa Pay. That's P for positive, EI. And remember, it's all about balance. Peace in and peace out.
Stardate, August 17th. The B-57 Canberra has been taking to the skies since the Korean War. Today, only 3 of the aircraft remain.